What's up, veterans, military? Hey, today we're going to be talking about the VA disability claims process, 100% permanent total VA disability benefits, how to get the permanent total status designation on your VA rating. Tune in, y'all gonna like this one. In order to get the permanent and total status, a veteran's disability needs to be determined by the doctor as well as through that third-party examiner that you're going through, that compensation and pension exam, the permanency of that VA disability, which is commonly known as static disabilities. Okay, so what does permanent mean to the VA? Permanency means that any or all of your disabilities have an expectancy to never get better from where they're currently at. You know, in plain English. I'm not a doctor, but for any disability that your treating physician, whether it be at a primary care provider, private medical, primary care provider, VA medical, doesn't matter. Definitely you want to get them to evaluate you and the permanency of any single disability. Let's take lumbosacral strain, for example. If it's a likelihood of your lumbar strain, low back pain, to never get better, only get worse over the years, that doctor should consider, okay, this is a permanent disability. It's only going to get worse from here, regardless of what medication you take, what physical therapy you take. A veteran service connected for PTSD, more than likely that veteran is going to be taking the medication for years to come. That disability, depending on their severity of symptoms, impacts, their psychologist can recommend that mental health disability will never get better from where it's currently at. There's a baseline for all VA disabilities. Working with your primary care provider or VA medical staff member, you can determine, okay, what's the level of permanency. Especially, if you're up there in age, especially, for my 35 and plus, hey, we're not young like we were before. Our disabilities are not getting better with time, getting better with age. It's not like wine. Our injuries it's not aging like wine. It's aging. Hey, if that was the case, our injuries will be looking like, Lionel Messi instead of Ronnie Coleman when we get 35 plus. Hey, that's not the case. So you definitely got to work with your primary care provider and get that level of permanency established. Some veterans, every claim that they submit are considered static permanent disabilities. Just like myself. I reached and attained VA disability at 100% permanent total. All of my disabilities were considered static, permanent, never to get better with time, only either stay at their current state as well as get worse on from now on. So you definitely need to establish that. And just being at 100%, you don't automatically rate this. A lot of veterans confuse this because they think, okay, if I'm at 100%, I should be 100% permanent total. And I wish that was the case for all veterans. However, there's some veterans with good genetics. And there's some veterans with horrible genetics, or, just the injury is so severe, it's not going to get better. Whether it be mental health, neurological, any physical ailments, low back, plantar fasciitis, whatever the case may be. Hey, you definitely need to check this out. Next. So, you don't have to be at 100% to start working on the permanency level of each of your disabilities or a combination of them. You can start prior to getting to 100%. That's what I would recommend. And you definitely want to work with your doctor because you're going to need clear medical evidence that shows, okay, your treating physician, your sleep study specialist, your physical trainer, your physical therapist, psychologist, they have evaluated you over the course of X amount of years. Submit your claim through the VA disability claims process, and you're working with them, and it's pretty much they're determining and establishing, okay, this is your baseline. This is the threshold. It will never get better from here. It's only going to either maintain or get worse. So you definitely need to start building that medical evidence early on prior to getting 100% permanent total, because once you get to 100%, you may not be permanent total, especially if your disabilities are not considered permanent. And that's where veterans get complacent. Yeah, you getting complacent. 9 times out of 10, if you're only at 100%, you're going to have future routine exams. And what that means is you'll still be going in on an annual, every 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, whatever the case may be, on a frequent basis in order to evaluate your current disabilities and see if they've gotten better. Now, if you've been going in every month, 2-3 months, if you've been going into your primary care provider or your VA medical provider on a frequent basis for any specific injury that you're currently service connected for, I want to establish permanency on this disability. Evaluate me, provide me with the medical evidence that I need to submit this claim to identify, to bring up to the VA, hey, these disabilities are considered permanent, which then they'll evaluate. They'll possibly send you to a compensation and pension exam. Not too sure on that process, but I know a lot of veterans, they have gone, a lot of veterans haven't gone. It's just once, it's not something that they think about on their journey to 100%. It's something after they reach and they've realized, oh, I'm not permanent in total. Why is that? Come on. Another tip, hey, for those of y'all who have chronic illnesses, clearly identify your medical evidence as well as on your VA disability rating. Chronic sinusitis, chronic rhinitis, chronic back pain, whatever the case may be, those disabilities inherently should be considered permanent, static. And this is what the VA looks for when adjudicating and processing claims for the permanent and total status. So it's definitely a lot to take in. Definitely something you need to be working with your primary care provider, whether it be private medical or VA medical. So whenever you go into the VA and you go into one of these VA-initiated future routine exams, if determined during the examination the permanency of any specific disability, whether it be physical, mental health, neurological, doesn't matter. If it's considered permanent at that future routine exam, that should initiate a permanent and total or a static designation on your VA disability rating. Now, whenever you do go into these VA-initiated future routine exams, definitely, I would schedule everything that you're service-connected for, have them all fall on the same date. So whenever you do go in for them, you're not going back and forth. And if you're going in for, everything that you're currently service-connected for at 100%, and majority of those disabilities, if not all of them, are now considered permanent, meaning static designations, from that future routine exam, it should initiate a permanent and total status change for your total VA disability rating and benefits, putting you back into the VA disability claims process. Hey, if y'all like this type of content, please comment down below. Let's get some dialogue. I've been going live more often, staying Gucci with it, because I know y'all fucking Gucci too. And until next time, this motherfucking Debo out. Y'all stay 2023 year to vet. Understand me?